Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Jiana Sangaji, and welcome to the Breakfast Show from London studio. Every week, Sangaji, I always say to you, I hope that you've had a good week and you're all in Jaddi Kala. But also, I like to bring to you that fact that we have some very interesting guests that I see every week on the Breakfast Show, simply because they're a real inspiration to us, the youth, as well as Jedi Sadisani Hage for the parents as well. So today, the organisation that we have in the studio with us is the Sikh Press Association. They came on earlier this year, January. They're here now with us to talk about their latest projects, upcoming projects, and also to introduce a new member in the team. So let me go over and introduce them to you. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki
Vaheguru Ji Ka
Fateh.
Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
An absolute pleasure to have you back in the studio again.
Thanks, Manji. We're becoming regulars.
I know. Do you know what it feels like? The year has flown by though. I just
it
can't
really
believe
has.
that we're already in September, end of September, and it's just gone by so quick. But Baji, tell us a little bit about introduce us actually to the newest member of the team.
Well, so today we don't have Rupinder Kaur, who was our founder, but we do have our newest member who've started approximately, was it 2-3 months ago?
Yeah, a couple of months ago now.
This is Sukh Singh Sodhi, and he's our latest press officer. So he'll be helping with day-to-day activities, firstly on a part-time basis.
Okay.
And I'm sure he can expand on his credentials and how he's come into Sikh PA.
Yeah, I mean, Baji, firstly, welcome to the
Thank you.
Breakfast Show.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no worries. And, nice to have you here. But tell us a little bit, about what you do and I guess what does it involve working for Sikh PA on a day-to-day basis?
So I started actually with Sikh PA. I started doing Seva with Sikh PA basically when it was founded.
Okay.
And I was still studying. Then I was studying in Oxford for my degree. And I'm still studying now. I'm at King's College. So I'm just wrapping up my master's degree. Okay. And alongside that, I'm part-time with Sikh PA at the moment.
Yeah.
And then when I finish my studies, I'll join full-time with the team, continuing as a press officer. So that will sort of, my job at the moment includes things like drafting press releases.
Okay.
So whenever there's an event and we want the media to know about it, I'll draft a press release. A lot of the time it's about contacting media to arrange press coverage for events. For example, maybe small Sangat events or even national events, Gurbabs or things to do with Seva.
Yeah.
And then there's other stuff such as helping Baji with the Langar week preparations or when we had Shibir Day earlier on in the year. So those sort of longer term, those bigger projects as well, I help on.
And how are you finding it so far?
I love it. It's great to be part of the team. It's great to be part of an organisation like CPA, which I think does absolutely amazing work.
Yeah.
And when I was a student, I used to look at what they did and the impact that it had. And so to be able to join them part-time now and full-time later is really exciting.
And tell me a little bit about your masters. What's the masters that you're currently doing?
So I'm doing a masters in politics and British history.
Brilliant. Very good to
I'm
hear.
looking at modern British politics. So a lot of the media stuff that we do is with the modern media.
Yeah.
A lot of the politics stuff I do at university is looking at politics in the media and government and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's actually a really nice fit.
Yeah, no, brilliant. So we may see you as an MP in the future, maybe?
I don't know about that.
Okay. So Baji, tell us a little bit about Sikh Press Association. What have they been working on in the last year?
So firstly, I mean, the addition of Sukh has been really helpful for the Sikh Press Association. So he brings a lot to the team, and there's so much to say when you ask about the day-to-day activities. It can really change. Like, for example, I think when Sukh started, it was the first week was the election week.
Okay.
So there he was helping organize the event that we held at Sikh Press Association Hastings, which is one of the things we've done in the past year. That was bringing together members of the Sikh community to discuss different political views, whether people should vote for the Conservatives, Labour, or actually whether they should vote at all, given the Sikh psyche. And then the week after that, in his second week, it was the Grenfell Tower incident. And so he was there not only doing Seva on the ground, but also helping to facilitate our day-to-day work, which was helping the media who would want to speak to us about what the Sikh community are doing there, why they're there, why they're coming with all this food, and where the notion comes from, why Sikhs are always involved in crises. So given that those are two things that we've done in this year, but there's also campaigns which we've run, our regular campaigns. We run a campaign around Vaisakhi, which is to ensure the media narrative around Vaisakhi focuses on the fact that it is a celebration of the birth of the Khalsa. We also run Shabil Day in June, which is an event to commemorate the Shahidi of Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj. which involves going around the world, in fact, handing out free drinks to the general public to engage them in conversation, to discuss with them about Sikh philosophy and history. There's been so much this year. Recently, we've been doing challenging media organizations like The Sun and the Daily Mail on the language that they use in reference to the Sikh community, and comparing that to how they use terms like Asian, and how they comparing that also to how they describe other ethnic groups, including native Brits. So there's been a lot of kind of liaison with mainstream media this year. I mean, I could literally reel off a list of things, but everything we do is on our social media. So if anyone does want to find out about what we do, they can always check out our Facebooks, our Instagram, our Twitter posts. We post literally everything we do.
Okay, because that is actually leading on to my next question. What is your relationship like with the mainstream media organizations?
Well, given this is our third year now, heading into our third year as a full-time organization. It's 2.5 years at the minute, so nearly into our third year, but we have established real links with the mainstream media. So we are regularly in contact with organizations like the BBC, like ITV. They'll come to us when they know that there's a story centering around the Sikh community or a Sikh issue. We're building bridges with mainstream media, mainstream press media, like the Daily Mail and the Sun, to ensure that when they are speaking about the Sikh community or Sikh community issues, they're also aware of concerns from the Sikh community about how they do this, which we put across to them. So sometimes with media, the thing is, things can work so fast, right? Something happens and the first thought is just to get the story out. It's not to really think that we need to speak to these people or that people. So what we're trying to do is set out a path for them, set out a kind of a system where they can use us for what they need, whether it be speaking to the right person, whether it be facts or pictures or anything as such. But our relationship with the mainstream media is really growing, it's getting stronger. And I would say at this point, most mainstream media is well aware that we are there providing this service to them.
And what about like Sikh organisations you have here? What's the relationship like?
It's actually really good. I would say the work that we do is largely just about doing seva, doing the work for Sikh organisations. Because when it comes to Sikh organisations, let's say, for example, your SWAT who do Langar Seva, that work in itself is such a big task. For them to think of doing the additional job of getting that work they do in the media to put across a message is an entirely separate job. So that's where we can come in and they can use us. We're essentially a tool of Sikh organisations. So our connection with Sikh groups is really strong, whether it be your Langar Seva groups where it's very obvious what kind of help they would need, or whether it be kind of educational groups where we would be using them as kind of speakers in the media, or even now writers. We're doing a lot more in terms of getting out articles and things like that. So I'd like to say we have a really good relationship with nearly all Sikh organisations across the UK, and we're trying to build bridges with organisations overseas. We've got Sevadars in Australia, America, Canada, and we're just trying to strengthen those ties so they're really aware of what we are, which is, like I said, essentially we're just a tool for Sikh organisations to be able to use. So if they want to do something in the media, they don't need to do that work themselves. They just come to us and we'll do that for them.
Okay. So obviously, leading on from that, talking about Langar Week, I know you've touched on it, that's upcoming. But before we go into the details of Langar Week, let's look at a short clip which highlights last year's,
last year's highlights
from last year. So Sangaji, we're going to have a look at a short clip of Langar Week's last year, highlights how it all went. Or the Bath will speak to the guests a little bit more about this year's Langar Week. Sangaji, hope this enjoyed discussing the highlights of last year's Langar Week. Let's speak to both Baji about this year's, what we've got to look forward to for this year's Langar Week. Baji, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh once again. If you could just tell me a little bit more about the concept of, the video that we've seen, but obviously going forward, Langar Week as well, what do we have to look forward to?
The concept of Langar Week was an idea that came about through discussions with Jugraj Singh and Rupinder Kaur, who have both founded the Sikh Press Association. And they actually launched the Sikh Press Association on the back of Langar Week. So before we were running as a full-time organisation doing day-to-day activities, we started with Langar Week. And the idea was to use a concept within the Sikh faith of Langar to publicize Sikh philosophy and ideology. And Langar is the easiest and most impacting way to do that to the general public. There's a video on our YouTube actually of when it was first started in 2014 of Jugraj Singh just going up to people in the street and saying, do you know you can get free food at any time on any day in a Sikh Gurdwara? And people were like, what, really? That's crazy. And then with that in mind, it's just, we're in 2017 and in the UK there's over 1 million people that use food banks, and still not enough of the general public know that they are welcome to go into our Gurdwaras to have Langar. So that's essentially the aim of Langar Week, literally to let more people know that this service is there, it's available for you, and at the same time to get our Gurukar to be used for what they were intended for, which is to be open for the general public and be used for those that need it.
And Langar Week will be taking place. What are the exact dates for when it will be taking place this year?
So only a few days away. It's October 2nd to October 8th. Yeah. So that's where we're running from.
And tell me a little bit about, like, we know obviously what it means, but what actually happens? Like, what's the process for you guys? Like, what is it that you have to do for it to come together, basically?
Oh, how do we even begin? So the first step is kind of looking at where we have the ability to show media where Langar Seva is really ongoing. So for example, when we started in 2014, the work that Midlands Langar Seva were doing was as always fantastic, but it wasn't as widely known as let's say for example what SWAT were doing, which started a little bit earlier. So we contacted the Midlands media, the BBC news channel for the Midlands, and said, look, there's this amazing server going on. This concept is being celebrated by the Sikh community and others throughout the week. Would you like to cover it? And that TV clip ended up getting 3 million hits. Wow. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking to do. We look for organisations like, there's also Southampton Sikh Server down in Southampton, Guru Nanak's Free Kitchen, who are in Doncaster, Middlesbrough, Peterborough, Edinburgh. And where they're doing that server, our first look is to say, get them into the media while they're doing their server during this week to show the general public that this is what the Sikh community does. This is a big part of practicing the Sikh faith, and also for more people to be aware that this service is there to help them, because we're not always aware that in the UK there's a lot of people that do actually have real needs to get help for free meals. Along with that, then we're doing, to facilitate that kind of thing, we're doing things like creating press releases, which is something that Sukh's an expert at at this stage. And there's a lot of kind of just calling up the media, calling up our Sikh organisations to see what they're doing. But what we also do is not just about the Langar Seva groups, we open it up to anyone else that'd like to get involved. So for example, last year in Canada, there was Sikh doctors that took other doctors, a big group of doctors, for the first time to go and have Langar. And amazing. So even if that might be something that the media might not be interested in looking at, but as long as it's getting more people to be aware, they will share it on their Facebooks, on their social media. We use social media as a platform as well as the mainstream media, TVs and so forth. And the final thing is that we, so that's getting people involved with their Langar Seva groups, putting focus on Langar Seva groups, getting people to just get their friends and family that might not be aware of Langar to a Gurdwara. So that means non-Sikhs largely. And then finally, other people, the general Sikh community, can set up their own Langars. which is something that happened in Liverpool last year. In the High Street, there's the Liverpool University Sikh Society. They set up a langar in Liverpool High Street. It went down fantastically. Local media came out to check out what they were doing and learned it's about this 500-year-old concept. And it also happened in Boston, and that's the type of thing. So we have to help them organize these events. We provide them with leaflets, provide them with guidance to work with the councils and how best to kind of do the ground level work. And then essentially the main part of what we do is try and get media involved. So publicize it either on social media or just get the general media to cover it.
And this year, who is actually going to be involved in Langar Week? Because obviously I know like in the previous years you've had SWAT and you've had different organisations, but so this year, who are going to be the actual organisations that are involved, and could you tell us a little bit more about that as well?
So as always, all these organisations that do this Langar Seva are always going to be involved in some form, but we're also going to be trying to do more focus on overseas groups. So you're looking at groups like Guru Nanak's Free Langar in Prince George Town in Canada, Vancouver, British Columbia, sorry. Guru Nanak's Free Kitchenette in Sydney, Langar, Australia. The Sikh Service Societies of Toronto, Ontario, the Guru Nanak's Free Mission of California, the Khalsa Core Foundation of California. California is so massive that there's the Langars needed all over the place. So we're going to be focusing on these overseas organizations as well, trying to get them as much publicity as our groups here have had, because it can become more difficult as time goes on to give the same publicity to organizations that the media might have already covered in some form. So we're going to try and focus on groups that haven't always been involved. We're also going to be doing a really big project with the Zero Hunger for Langar team.
Oh, amazing.
They're the group that have taken Langar all the way to Africa. At the minute they're serving thousands of, I think it's about 30,000 meals a month in Malawi to school children. So we're going to be holding an exhibition with them in Birmingham at the Custard Factory. You can get more details on that from our website on the social media on October the 6th. So.
And then what are the general public's reaction when Langar Week takes place? You know, if you could tell me some of the responses that you receive, because it's interesting to see, it's true, from where you started to where you are now, it's grown massively. And, you know, we obviously, for us, we take it for granted. And then we go to the Gurdwara, we know Langar's there. But that's us being born into the Sikh faith. I'd like to know what the response is from the public.
I think the responses are overwhelmingly positive. You know, it is first of sort of, you get the shock of this actually exists and this is here. And then they realise it's not even basic food. It's, you know, especially, you know, non-Sikhs will go, oh, this is a very tasty curry and I can have as much as I want. And also just the hospitality of sort of seva groups and Sikhs who are taking part in this seva, making people feel welcome. You know, we're not ostracising non-Sikhs there. You know, it doesn't matter what skin colour you are, what religion you are. Everybody eats together on the same level. You know, these are basic Sikh principles that actually people are very shocked to see when they come. When I was at Grenfell Tower, on the day of the fire, journalists were coming up to me saying, what's this? And I was saying, it's an extension of Langar. Journalists were saying, what's Langar? And you start explaining that Gurdwaras do this all the time. And they say, no, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. You're having me on, it's one of those tricks on the street. And you say, go and have a look, you know, or we'll take Langar to campus. So I think one of the best reactions is from university students. And when you take Langar onto campus there, when you get Sikh societies, and all of a sudden, you know, university is a time when you're going meeting different people anyway. You have Sikh societies, Sardars, or maybe people Amritari who have Maharaj Swaroop. And you're saying, who are these people? They're Sikhs. And other people in the university who might not come into contact with them, might not know anything about Sikhi, they're seeing it, they're always on social media, they're putting it on social media, and that's getting spread. And it's sort of a snowball effect. So, you know, it's not just about 1 week, it's about changing people's perceptions forever about the Sikh faith and who Sikhs are.
And do you know what this actually reminds me of recently this year when myself and the team went to Nairobi. We went for the Smagam that was taking place for Guru Gobind Singh Ji's 350-year Prakash. They were serving Langar, you know, however many times in the day to thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and it didn't matter really, you know, your caste, creed, anything. Anyone was welcome to come to the Smagam, but you know, you could just see people's faces, and they're just so mesmerised by the whole thing of, you know, how come there's not just one or two things, but there's like everything there. So it's that, you know, it's that biyar actually. spread through everybody sitting together, eating together. So this actually reminds me of that. So it's amazing work that you're doing, and it's good to hear the response. So obviously this is the 4th year of Langar Week. Tell me some of your favourite stories that you've had previously.
So many. I mean, just touching on what we were saying before about general public reaction. Yeah. As well as it being available as a service, some people aren't aware that actually there's a lot of people that do rely on it. People that are aware, the homeless and whatnot. And of course, there's the groups that do it on the street, and they have provide a service which is kind of, you can't even imagine how helpful it is to the general public. But even in our Godwaras, on the first ever Langar Week in 2014, we had a TV crew come over into Havelock Gurdwara. And they were interviewing Jugaraj Singh, and he sat down with his dali to eat. And somebody sits next to him, and it was a Gora, and Jugaraj just started talking to him, and it turns out he was homeless. And it was just happened to happen that he sat right next to him on that day that the TV crew were there. And as he's saying, do you mind having this carrying on this conversation on TV? And he was like, no, it's no problem. And he was just telling people like, look, without this, I would have to go and steal. He was saying, that's what you were saying. So Langar actually helps cut crime in that way, because his exact words were, and I think it's on our YouTube, what's the point of me getting nicked for going to steal a Kit Kat or something when thank God I can come here and just do this. Another really great story is that after it first went out on news, somebody messaged us from Slough who said he was a Sardar, and an old man walked up to him and pulled out a £50 note and said, take this. And the Sardar was like, what are you doing? And he was like, I've seen on TV, you guys do that food thing, right? You lot serve food to people. He goes, take this, give it to that. There's good work that you do. And that's the kind of impact it can have, because people, they just become aware of, when they see a Sikh, when they see the Sikh identity, that's what they will relate it to, which is an issue that, in these modern days, in the current climate of, what we usually read about in the news, people can sometimes confuse what they know about Sikhs or what they think about Sikhs, just given the physical identity. So these kind of things help to kind of change that perception and get it to the real ideology. And the last thing I will say is that the general impact of Langar Week, it has seen the creation of server groups, because they've done it on a one-off. And then they've actually thought that, we can do this all the time. This is brilliant. We love doing this. That includes groups like Seva, the Sikh Empowerment Voluntary Association in East London, and also the Southampton Sikh Server Group. These are massive groups that have changed their communities, and they started by doing a one-off event in Langar Week. And they've seen that they can do this all the time, so it's a really big impact for us.
No, it is definitely. We've got 1 minute to break. Baji, if you want to quickly, you can say something.
No, I'm just saying, when you talk to homeless people in London, for example, a couple of years ago it was, the Sikhs, I see them. Now when you talk to homeless people, it's, every single week they're there, in fact more than once a week, and every single homeless person in central London now knows about the Sikh groups that are giving out langar to them. That's the legacy. That's what this creates.
Definitely, and do you know what? It just shows that Guru Nanak Dev Ji's philosophy is out there through this. So absolutely amazing to see. We're going to go for a short break, and we'll be back. Sangat ji, ਅਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਛੋਟੀ ਜਿਹੀ break ਵਾਸਤੇ ਜਾਣਾ. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਚਾਹ ਦਾ ਕੱਪ ਪੀ ਲਿਓ. Please join us back after the break, where we'll continue this conversation or interview with the Sikh Press Association. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. Waiguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waiguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome back, Sangat ji, after the break. I hope this is Jada Garpidia, as well as having a biscuit. So before we go, continue the conversation with Sikh Press Association. And actually, if you've only just joined us, yes, we have Sikh Press Association with us, who are talking about Langar Week and also some of their upcoming projects, as well as their previous ones. We're going to continue with them shortly, but I have a thought of the day that I'd like to share with you for this week, which actually relates to the seva that Sikh Press Association are currently doing. Helping one person might not change the whole world, but it could change the world for one person. This, I think, is definitely related to the work that Sikh Press Association are doing, educating Jari Sangat Hegi, regardless of your caste, creed, about Langar, what Langar is, and why we obviously as Sikhs we have Langar. So they're doing this already out there. Let's continue speaking to them to find out a little bit more about Langar Week, as well as their upcoming projects. Waiguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waiguru Ji Ki Fateh. What would you like to say on the thought of the day, actually? Because I had to choose that one, especially because of the work that, or the seva that you were doing, because that's exactly what you are doing.
I would say that actually what we do is really highlight the real seva that's being done by seva groups. We, without the real work being done by them, whether it be humanitarian work by groups like Khalsa Aid, or Langar Seva by groups like Guru Nanak's Free Kitchen, or the educational work by groups like Seek to Inspire or Nanak Naam, we wouldn't have anything to work with. So all we do is really point the focus at them to show a real image of who the Sikh community are.
Yeah. And Baji, what would you like to say about your, I guess, you're doing all the whole press release and everything. For you, I guess, coming into the organisation, being quite new, what would be your experiences that you would like to say or tell the Sangat about for why you do what you do?
I think you see, there's those twofold. When you look at the Sikh community and you see all of the work about the Seva groups and you think, why don't people know about them? What is it? Why can't we get that message out there? There's such a beautiful message. A message comes straight from Maharaj, and Maharaj is, Dasas are doing it beautifully. When you see all of this work, and not just the Langar staff, but like Baji said, either educational or issues based, or even helping other communities, for example. And the media don't really pick up on that.
No.
What the media pick up on instead is bad stuff, or not even bad stuff, but they put bad stuff on the Sikh community by confusing us with other people. And there's nobody really out there at the moment who can stand up on an organisational basis and challenge the mainstream media. The British press is probably among the fiercest press in the world. And when they want to go after somebody, or when they go after a group, that's a very powerful attack. And I think I wanted to be part of an organisation that's standing up for the Sikh community against some of these attacks and against also some of these misconceptions and a lot of inaccurate, for example, information about the Sikh community out there. When there's not an organisation like the Sikh Press Association, the media are going to get their information from whoever, or worst case, they're going to make it up. Because they're working to very tight time deadlines. And that's something I think a lot of people don't appreciate. A lot of our work is within a day, especially when it's sort of liaising with the media. So I think it's a very exciting job. It's really exciting work, but also it's really gratifying, like Baji said, to see the real seva. What we do is not really seva. It's what the other groups that are doing, actually helping people, and to see that on a daily basis and to showcase that is really heartening.
But it's nice to see that you've all come together and you're working together to do this at the end of the day, because that education is very important. Like you said, just being out there in the media with the British press, it's probably, it's a challenge, I'd say, because we will go back to Langar Week, but actually I've got a question on what you've just said for yourself, actually, Baji. You were saying earlier as well about the British media, so distinguishing between saying Asian, obviously for us, we're Indians. What are the challenges that you do face? How has it been? Talk to us about that.
It's really a complex issue, because I think when it comes to the Sikh community, the media likes to have us fit in this one kind of fit narrative, this one little box, which is, when we're good, it's because we are the group that fought in World War I and World War II, and we're good at assimilating, we're good at blending in. When we're bad, it's because we're becoming basically too religious, and they would use terms like orthodox or conservative, and just these kind of terms to say being too religious is where these issues come in. So let's say, for example, with things like the Qurban, when an issue will come up, like recently there was an issue with Drayton Manor theme park, and they wouldn't let a family in, including of young Sikhs, because they were wearing the Qurban, they're Khalsa Amritdhari Sikhs. The way they would put this across is like, these Sikhs are carrying weapons, which, by all it's literally true in its form. But then at the same time, these are the same Sikhs that they are praising when we're doing seva for them, and for anyone in the general public, in any kind of form, whether it be helping out at disasters like Grenfell Tower. So we have to try and get them to connect the two. That the Sikh identity, it doesn't end at just what we did in World War I or World War II. It doesn't just end at what we do in terms of seva. It also connects to kind of everything from, the keeping of the Qurban to kind of the political ideologies that are embedded within the Sikh religion. Specifically in terms of what you're saying about things like Asian, so and the use of that compared to the use of Sikh. We brought up an example which was quite recent, where there was a crime done which involved members of the Sikh community, and the terminology used by the Daily Mail and the Sun was Sikh gang commit the crime. And then there's when we see other crimes done by other groups, they'll be referred to as Asian gang has done so and so. And then finally, when we see crimes which are essentially done by groups who are ethnic Brits, you won't see anything. It'll just say gang commits crime. So we wanted these organizations to justify why they're using these different this different terminology. The Daily Mail, they were very specific. It's all on our website, it's all on our social media for anyone that wants to check it out, about why they did this. But they related it to only these individual stories.
Right.
So what they are aware of is that we're going to be keeping an eye on them to make sure that it's not something that's going to be ongoing, going forward, that they can't use these terms as and when they see fit, because they can't use the Sikh to describe a criminal act, right? Because for us that's unfair. They're not doing that for any other groups. With the Sun, they were a bit more kind of generic in their answer, which was simply saying that they've got a lot of respect for the Sikh community. They apologize for any offences caused, and they'll again be open to working with us to ensure that they don't do anything which kind of is basically unfair, is inconsistent compared to what they do. So there's a lot of challenges there, but essentially it just falls into us ensuring that when they talk about the Sikh community, it's on a level playing field, it's fair. It doesn't mean that they're allowed to say the Sikh community is bad just when, you know, the religion comes into it, just when somebody is doing something bad. We saw that with there's the recent actions of Harry Atwell in Barcelona. So this was a Sikh man who, during the terror attack in Barcelona, when a van went through Las Ramblas and killed, I think, 13 or 14 people, as soon as it happened, his immediate reaction was to go to an injured child. And those pictures went around the world because there's police and medical people screaming at him to get away because they weren't aware of what was going on. There could be follow-up attacks, but he was just calmly there looking after the child. He went on live TV and he said, I did this because of my Sikh faith. My Sikh faith taught me that, you know, we have to help people. And all the British media described him as a Brit. He himself described himself on live TV as a Sikh. That's why he did his action. So we have to try and show the media, look, you're being unfair here. You can't call him a Brit, or call a Sikh a Brit when they do something good. But when they do something bad, you call them a Sikh. So we want to just try and you know, clear that out and make them do the right thing.
No, that's really good. It's good to hear that it is working and it is making that effect, and obviously letting people know that, you know, this is who we are. And obviously I know, you know, we talked a lot about Langar Week. Coming back to that, if you could, for the people that have joined us after the break, just give us the dates once again as well for when that's happening. So
October 2nd and to October 8th, the whole week from the Monday to the Sunday, there will be events across the world, and there will be campaigns going to showcase the concept of Langar.
And if anybody wants to get involved to help out with anything, where do they need to go? I mean, we will give details towards the end, but where could they go to find out more information or to be involved in this?
So mainly on langarweek.com. There'll be information there about how people can get involved, how they can get in contact with us if they want to plan their own event. So very simply, langarweek.com. Also, just follow us on social media on facebook.com/SikhPA, on Twitter @SikhPA, or Instagram SikhPA. Very simple tags for us on social media, and we'll be updating people with constantly what we're doing, where they can come to get involved, or how they can get involved themselves. But yeah, there's very simply 3 ways to get involved. Take someone for Langar that's never been before, hold your own Langar event, or join up with your local Langar server team to see what they do on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, and Baji, how has Langar Week changed since 2014 to now?
It's changed a lot in that it's actually become more difficult to showcase as it goes on, because once an idea is fresh, the media are like, wow, right? So the kind of publicity that we got originally in 2014 in the Midlands with the work of Midland Langar Seva Society, we're not going to be able to replicate that for them in the Midlands again without something fresh happening. We've kind of moved our focus on last year to doing more things through social media. So we put out a video immediately, which was really basic and just factual about the work that the Sikh community do in regards to langar. Things like it serves 6 million meals a day, and that that reach of that video, just this normal reach from us just putting it on Facebook like anyone else can put a video on Facebook, it went out to hundreds of thousands of people. It just got shared that many times. At the same time, we got people to talk about Langar Week on Twitter. We done a Twitter hour, and it became the second most talked about subject during that period, during that hour, and at the same time is battling against the X Factor and Strictly Come Dancing, which I thought was quite good because it came second only to the X Factor during that period for that Twitter hour. It actually beat Strictly Come Dancing, which I know is quite a popular TV show. So that from the first year where we were just focusing on the groundwork and getting the media to see something which is completely new to them, now we're looking at different angles to work with. And what we're doing right now for this year, we're going to try and do a lot of focus on the groups overseas, because in countries like let's say for example Australia, the Sikh community does what they do anywhere in the world, but they are still very regularly victims of kind of basically Islamophobic attacks, where people have no idea, about anything to do with the Sikh community. They see somebody, it could be a bibi in a chunni, or it could be a Sardar, and they have a certain assumption in their head. So we want to start getting focus on those communities, on the work they do, and so people can get an idea of the Sikh ideology in countries like Australia, and even in South America actually, where there's a lot of Sikhs that do that seva.
True. And then what things are happening this year for Langar Week that you want to tell us about?
So I think the main way people can find out is, because otherwise I could be here all day and talking for the entire day about what's going on, is go to langarweek.com, and we have a full list of our events. But we'll be running fundraising for certain groups. We'll be holding an exhibition on October 6th in the Midlands with the Zero Hunger with Langar group. We'll be showcasing, like I said, overseas Langar events, and a lot of it depends with kind of coordinating with the media when something will come out. So we don't decide when the media is going to put out their TV feature on Langar, but once it does, it will all be on our social media, so they can check out everything they would need to see on the social media.
Thank you. And then Baji, how have things been with Sikh PA since Jugraj Baji's passing? How's it been?
It's been difficult, obviously on a personal level, for all of us that knew Jugraj and worked with him, and actually now looking back, feel so blessed and honoured that he was be open to kind of having us involved in his project, because the Sikh Press Association was his idea, something he was only able to put together through working with Rupinder Kaur, who he co-founded it with. So I mean, it's been difficult on a personal basis, but ever since his diagnosis in December, we've been aware that we're just now essentially working largely without Jugraj Singh, but it's always an influence you're going to miss, both on a personal and a professional level. But we're so blessed to have the support of the Sangat and of the Seva organizations and groups. So they've been really great to work with us, and I've seen actually a lot of them have kind of stepped up and realized that they want to do more, they can do more, and they are doing more. So
and tell me a little bit about how was it setting up Sikh PA with Jugraj Baji, because that's a really nice story actually, I think, for Sadi Jiri Sangat Videk. What was it like to set that up with Baji?
So it's a shame Rupinder Kaur couldn't be here, because she actually did set it up with Jugraj, like literally done. So I got involved because I was a freelance journalist at the time, and I was doing a lot of work with kind of different organizations, and sometimes off my own accord I'd be writing about kind of Sikh issues and pushing the media into covering them. So in the early days, it was kind of like Rupinder Kaur, who I knew through the media industry, she thought that I should get involved, and Jugraj is really kind of specific with his aims. He has kind of a laser focus, so he knew exactly what he wanted from the Sikh Press Association, and he thought the best way to start that would be to do something first, which would get a lot of traction, which is why he thought we'd start with Langar Week. So it was a case of the way he works, he's just like such a hard worker. It was probably about 6 weeks away from the date that he wanted to do Langar Week on, and this is this involves kind of creating posters, leaflets, videos, press releases, connecting with so many different groups and organizations, so many different media organizations as well. So that's a really short time to do it in, especially considering the fact that none of us were doing it full time at that point. All of us were just doing it as server on the side. But he set the aim, he set the date, and we got working. So I mean, he was really clear on the aims of Sikh Press Association as well. Thereafter, once we'd done Langar Week, it was a case of, all right, now let's really package what the Sikh Press Association's about, and let's set a launch date. We launched officially in February 2015. So the aims that kind of him and Rupinder worked out were to raise the profile of the Sikh community, ensure the media are able to get in touch with the articulate and knowledgeable speakers within the Sikh community, and also to provide media empowerment for the Sikh community, which is where in around January we started our media workshops, which is something that we're still doing, which is just providing a free class basically to teach media skills to Sangat in different places, mainly in Gurdwaras. So we've done it in Havelock, Gurdwara in Southall, Park Avenue actually. We've done it in Barking Gurdwara in East London, Smethwick Gurdwara. We've done it in Southampton and loads of other places, Bradford.
Yeah. And Buddy, you worked really closely with your garage buddy.
Angie.
Tell us a little bit about a special memory or something, because previously when I had Basics of Sikhi on, it's really nice to know and hear, because I wasn't fortunate enough to be that close with working with them, but you know, just their whole personality, the smile, they were always in Jaddi Gala. Is there a memory that you could share with us, or something that you remember, either funny or something that, you know, because they were just always in Jaddi Gala, always smiling, and their smile was probably the thing that stuck out with all of us. Talk to us about a memory.
There's so much I could say. I mean, you know, now at this time we kind of look back and we kind of cherish all those moments, right? One thing that stands out, he's when it comes to this kind of work, Seva, he is so driven. I don't think, unless you've actually worked with him, it can really be put across how driven he is, how hard he worked, and how much it was it is all he was about. So I'm quite naturally a laid back, relaxed person, and sometimes, you know, that wouldn't always be kind of the way he would want things to work. So when our second Langar Week, in the build up to it, I was constantly on the phone, on my mobile phone, which, you know, is basically the work phone, to different organizations, media organizations. And I found out when my bill came in, I was like, whoa, for the first time ever in my life, I'd gone over my minutes. This is a contract I'd had for like, you know, 10, 11, 12 years. First time ever I'd gone way over, and, you know, I was a few £100 over in terms of my bill. So I was like, okay. I said to Jagraj, this has happened, so I'm going to work from home for a few days in the week, just so I can get all those phone calls out using my house phone, right? Which, where it would be a bit cheaper. And he was like, okay, that's fine, but why don't you just get a new phone, a new contract? I was like, okay, I will, but we've got, you know, short time between now and Langar Week, and getting a new phone, a new contract, most of us, we spend a bit of time doing that, right? You want to see which is the latest phone, which you set up with, you take your time to see which contract you need, which is your best thing. And Jaguar just worked so fast, he was like, that'll take 5 minutes, you can do it online. And I was like, look, I have to hold my ground now. I was like, I want to take my own time to find my own phone and get my own contract. So I'm sorry, but, you know, just give me a few days to work from home, so, you know, I don't end up going over my bill again, and I'm just going to use my house phone. And the next morning I woke up and my phone stopped working. My phone wasn't working anymore. Honest to God, my phone was just completely stopped working. And I came in the office the next day and I was like to Graj saying, what did you do to my phone? Now I have to get a new phone. Now I have to get a new contract, because, you know, I've got no choice otherwise. So there and then on that very same day, you know, and he was like, you know, I was just trying to do what is best for you, and what is best for you to do the work, Seva. So just do these things quickly and just, you know, get on with them.
And look, and because you had to, you did it, right? So like they say, Kalu da jada kam hega, aaj karo. You know, I guess kind of, so it just made you probably, and I guess going forward, have you kind of been that way now? I'm just going to get it done. Well,
you know, you have to be working in this kind of industry, and sometimes that can mean being quite short with people, right? You might talk to someone and you want something from them, whether it's them to do an interview with someone or give you some information, and it's just like, yeah, thanks, and that's it. You might not talk to them again for a week. So for anyone that I've done that to, I do apologize, but this is just the way this kind of whole thing works, right? You just
of course
work. It's just true. You try and take on just a little bit of that drive, that jugaad, and carry on with that.
Brilliant. So we've got a few minutes left, and obviously there's lots more things I want to quickly run past you and I will speak to you about. But if you could tell me about the future, what's that going to hold for Sikh PA going forward?
I think a great person to answer that would be someone who's going to help the future of the organisation.
I think what we want to do is develop our relationship with the media organisations. So, you know, Baji's already done a great deal of work in sort of getting us established with that. And now we do have very good, in fact, relationships with agencies like the BBC or the newspapers. I think something we want to develop is getting more articles written. So we're actually quite good now at fielding interviewers, for example, or providing media rebuttals and press releases. And so that's one stage. But I think another stage now is we can start being more proactive and in terms of shaping the narrative in the media. So we have a lot of talent in the Band. You know, we have a lot of writing talent in the Band. We have a lot of people who know history, and we have a lot of people who write in newspapers at the moment who don't have that knowledge. And unfortunately, you know, they're writing for us. So really getting talented people in the Band to come forward and to write these articles.
Well, that was a question. What is it that you need from the Sangat to grow? Because now's your chance on Sikh Channel. Reaches out to millions of viewers, not just in the UK, worldwide. Now's your chance. What is it that you want? What kinds of people would you like to come forward with? What kind of skill set? You know, let us know.
I think the important thing for us is we don't know what's going to be on tomorrow's news. You know, we don't know what's going to happen at all. So we need the broadest possible range in Sangat, because, you know, we had no idea that Grenfell was going to happen the day before it happened. You know, we had no idea that the Barcelona attack was going to happen the day before it happened. You know, and working in media, working in the news organisation, we have to be quick to respond. If we're not quick enough to respond, then the media moves on and we get left behind. So we need Sangatji to really be responsive to us as well. You know, this is not a case of something's happened, I can help you at the weekend, I can then do something next week. You know, that's too late. If we want to arrange an interview, it's this afternoon or it's tomorrow morning. So it's about building relationship with Sangat as well, so that we have those people from the Sangat that we can put up very quickly for an interview, or we can put up quickly, because that's how media works. You know, that's just the nature of professional media. And so I think it's really about getting the Sikh community and the Band generally at that level where we have enough people to cover enough stories in the time frame that's available.
And if Jiri Sadi Sangat Dekhdi, you know, they're thinking, actually I do want to get involved, they may not have caught the details of where to go. Could you once again please give details of where they need to go to get in touch?
Yeah, so we have the website sikhpa.com, very simple. The Sikh Press Association page is on Facebook as well. We have Twitter at SikhPA, just any form of social media like that. Our email addresses are on the website also, so you can drop us an email. You can just contact media@sikhpa.com. That's our general email as well. So all of these ways, you know, we're constantly on media, whether it be social media or email. We're always checking. So just drop us a message and we'll get back in touch.
And any last message that you'd like to give to our Sangat?
Just thank you for all the support, a real thank you. We get a lot of support in what we do. Sometimes it can be a kind of hard concept to understand of what we actually do, especially as an organisation which runs full time, but we're getting a lot of support, and also mainly to the seva organisations and groups, because without them doing the real actual seva, we wouldn't be doing anything. So that's the real thanks to all those people involved in that.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you back on, and we look forward to having you on again in the future with future projects and speaking to you about how your masters is going as well, Baji. So you know, keep watch this space. But thank you so much, and God bless you. Sangatji, I hope that you enjoy Gitta Sega, and I really hope that, you know, the CV John there to get involved. And we know that there's many talented individuals out there, so please do spread the word and get in touch with Sikh Press Association, and spread the word to family and friends and anyone that you think would be interested. Let's support organisations like this. As a Banta, let's come together and obviously try to educate people on the Sikhi philosophy, on Guru Nanak Dev Ji's philosophy actually, because that's what it's all about, all of us coming together and educating others. Have a good week ahead. God bless you and your families. And please main maaf kariyo, main to koi galtiyan bhi hoiyan, pulla chakka di maafi. Vaheguru ji ka khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki fateh.